Have you ever been on the rowing machine and thought, what is this weird thing here on the side? What do all these numbers mean? And if you look at most rowing machines in most gyms, you'll see this thing cranked up all the way to number 10. Now, what I want to go over in this video is exactly what these numbers mean and what the optimal number or resistance is for the rowing machine. It's very easy to see the rowing machine as just another piece of cardio equipment, like either a bike or a treadmill. And I like to think of a bike as a good example when I think about how people change the resistance settings on the rowing machine. Most people crank up the resistance to 10 because as they're rowing, and usually rowing improperly, they think that upping the resistance is just like it would be upping it on a bike, whereas the higher resistance you go, the harder it is to pedal, that the higher resistance on the rower, then it would be harder to row. The problem is the rowing machine is a lot different than a treadmill or a bike, whereas there's no speed change. There's not really any true resistance change as far as you take the rowing stroke, the harder you press, the harder it is to pull the handle backwards. It changes based off of how hard you pull on it, which is not the case with things like a bike. Because the rowing motion is not necessarily the perfect motion for our bodies, overuse with rowing can lead to overuse injuries, especially in the lower back. So whether you're just learning to row or to optimize your rowing performance, I recommend putting the rowing machine resistance at the resistance of water. Now, what does the resistance of water mean? It's going to be different for each rowing machine depending on its maintenance. A brand new rowing machine will have the resistance of water at one of the lower numbers on the scale, somewhere between 3 and 5. Now, a rowing machine that hasn't been taken care of properly, in that case, that rowing machine number can get all the way up to 8, 9 before actually reaching that resistance. Now, how do we know exactly what the resistance of water is? Well, we're going to use our rowing monitor to figure that out. You can find this resistance of water by going to the drag factor on your rowing machine. So to get to the drag factor, on most Concept 2 screens, PM3s, PM4s, PM5s, you can go to the More Options menu and then click at the top Display Drag Factor. When you've done that, it's going to tell you to row to display the drag factor. That drag factor number is going to change as you move the blue needle on the right up or down. The actual number that it displays is a pretty arbitrary number, but the ideal resistance, the ideal number that we want to get that drag factor to, is somewhere between 115 and 125. Male collegiate rowing teams usually have the drag factor between 120 and 125, while women's rowing teams somewhere between 115 to 120. While the specific number isn't necessarily that important, the idea is to get it within this range in order to make the resistance feel like it would if you were rowing in a boat on the water. I definitely recommend having the drag factor within this range compared to higher, because as the resistance goes higher, your actual output on the rowing machine will stay relatively the same. However, it will feel more challenging to take each stroke and therefore put a lot more strain on muscles that can be exposed to injury, such as your lower back. By having the resistance around the resistance of water, this allows you to achieve a high volume on the rowing machine while reducing your chances of getting injured compared to if you had the resistance higher. So you need to play around with the drag factor a little bit in order to find that ideal resistance. But I definitely recommend that next time you go for a rowing workout that you set it to this, and you might feel a whole lot less strain on muscles such as your lower back. This way you also get the benefit of practicing for what it would feel like if you were practicing in a boat on the water. I hope that this drag factor tip was informative, and I would love to hear what you guys think about drag factor and what drag factor you row with. So let me know in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.